economic development volunteer, and they tell you that Peace Corps is a lifestyle, and I've never known that to be more true than today. As I was driving here, I put on a skirt, my Peace Corps polo, and I looked down and I have Birkenstocks on. I've never felt more like a true volunteer in my life, but I'm just here to talk to you about my experience and the fact that Peace Corps is the toughest job you will ever love, and that is a phrase that they will tell you, you'll see in all the recruitment handbooks, and it's so true. Peace Corps is a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week responsibility, but not in the fact that you're going to be writing grants all the time, and you're always going to be leading projects, more so that you're always on in your community. You're always representing Peace Corps, the United States, and the mission that you're there to do. So, what to expect? Leave your comfort zone. You'll learn a new language and a new culture, develop the professional capacity of your local counterparts, and you'll develop new skills yourself. You'll come back with a new set of professional skills and personal responsibilities, and you'll work independently and creatively. So this was a women's empowerment workshop that I put on with my friend Aisha, another volunteer, and we would train the women each week to be able to give a professional presentation in front of a group. Most of the people you're going to work with have lower education levels and haven't had professional training. They're not accustomed to getting up here, presenting on subjects and new ideas, and so we would work with them to build their confidence in their skills. A different kind of office. In some countries, especially Eastern European countries, you can be placed with municipal governments, but if you're working in rural communities, these are going to be your office. Lots of plastic chairs. You're never going to have walls. You're going to have to get very creative, and you're going to have to adapt your professional style to meet the country that you're working in. And no Peace Corps experience is alike. I was elected the corn queen of my Pueblo's Catholic Church. It was a campaign. My community nominated me to be their candidata, and I won. My reign was from the year 2013 to 2014, and my host family owned cows, and so I would go up there and learn how to milk cows. I learned how to herd cows, how to give them medicine, how to feed the babies, because you're not just working professionally in Peace Corps. You're working to understand and learn a new way of life, and what comes with that is integration. So you don't have to be the corn queen or be milking cows to integrate, but you have to put yourself out there and be open to new experiences. Part of my success came from saying yes to everything. Saying yes to eating the food, saying yes to participating, saying yes to being actively engaged. And so I had a wonderful time being the corn queen. So 27 months in a nutshell for me was based on empowerment and economic development. I was a community organization and economic development volunteer. So in my sector, our goal was to build the economic capacity of our communities and create community groups. I focused a lot on gender and community development. When I showed up to San Nicolas, where I served, there was no distinct group for women. There was no organized activities benefiting women. And when I did my community census and interviewed members of the community, they told me that that's what they wanted, activities for women and girls. Camps and conferences, the most enjoyable part of my Peace Corps service was doing camps with other volunteers. If you guys have done any research, I'm sure you've heard of GLOW camps, Men as Partners, and that's when you bring counterparts from all over your country together for a weekend, and it's amazing. Cooperatives, English classes, and once again, personal development with local counterparts. These are my women, who I worked with for 27 months to start a small income-generating activity, a little food-selling business that was built on their pre-existing skills. These women were working in their church selling food, they were helping their community, and they never connected the dots to be able to help themselves. And so we took what they were able to do and turned it into an income-generating activity. So they actually are sponsored by an NGO, and the El Salvador program closed down January 29th. But this NGO is still working with them. It's called World Connect, and they only work with Peace Corps volunteers. And the NGO was so impressed by these women and the work that they did and the development that they had over my time in El Salvador, that they're still sponsoring them, even though the country program is closed down. So this is the NGO. They came to visit our site and made a video about the women. They did a series of interviews with them, house visits, and this was honestly the biggest hit. These women felt so special having this camera crew and this team come from the United States just to visit them, eat their food, watch them cook. I would really recommend to any future volunteers to look into working with World Connect. It's an amazing organization, and they have multiple project cycles. I helped a young girl with the funds that the woman had. We sponsored a small jewelry business for a young girl who started selling her products in a local hotel. These are some examples of camps that I mentioned. This is a Girls Leading Our World Glow Camp. This is a Peace Corps classic. Everyone who's in Peace Corps talks about glow camps because they are effective. They take young girls and they make them feel special. In a lot of the communities you're going to work with, girls' lives don't have value. They're not seen as productive members of the culture. They're not expected to go to school. They're not expected to do anything but get married and help their families. So we took young girls and we did a 3-day-long camp with them. These girls have never even had a sleepover. It's little things like that. They've never stayed up late like we all did when we were younger. And been silly and had the opportunity to really enjoy time for themselves. And you teach them about HIV/AIDS, safe sex. You teach them about understanding their rights, how to speak up. And it's tools that are already developed for you from Peace Corps. So you don't have to be working to design it, you just follow the plan. We did a youth business camp with a bunch of the boys because the boys in all of our communities came crying to us because they wanted to go to camp. It wasn't fair that just the girls got to go, so we designed for them a youth business camp where they got to go and learn how to make things with their hands. They learned how to cook, they learned how to make candles, things that are traditionally women's work. And they had a great time, and we got to take them to the country's Civil War Museum, which they haven't been to. So including the men is a huge part of any kind of development you're going to do. If, like me, you're focused on working with women, and you are a woman, you're going to be met with a lot of resistance from the men in your community. You're going to be called a bruja. You're going to be called a lot of names. Not because of the work you're doing, but because of the threat that you're making. When people have power, they don't want that power taken away. And so we decided, myself and a few other volunteers recognized this problem, and instead of working just to incorporate women into development, we realized we had to bring their male counterparts into the conversation. So we designed the first ever National Men as Partners Conference, where we brought men from all over the country to one spot and did a 4-day-long event in order to teach them about gender inequality. And this is an example of a Peace Corps project that I had no idea I was going to be working with. I am a master's student. I understand the development process. I know about gender development. I know nothing, absolutely nothing about farming, agriculture, environmental development, and there was a cooperative in my community that expected me to work with them. They expected me to understand the growing of chili peppers and how to produce the best vegetables. And in Peace Corps, you're going to show up this community and you're going to have one idea of what you're going to do and you're going to be good at one thing, and everyone's going to think you're an expert in everything. So you have to be really adaptable, you have to be quick on your feet, and the internet will be your best friend. These are my English classes. Once again, I was not an English teacher, I was not an education volunteer, but I spoke English. And everyone expects you to be an English teacher. First, when you get to your community, they will ask you for English classes. When are you going to teach us English? When are we going to learn English? Say yes. It is the best way to get in immediately. Parents will let their kids come, and once the kids like you, the parents will like you. Teaching English is not that enjoyable if you're not trained. It's a lot more work than you think it's going to be, but it's a really easy project to get your Peace Corps service off with. And it isn't all work. You have the most flexible schedule of your life as a Peace Corps volunteer. Some weeks you work 6 hours. And by work, I mean lead a workshop, write a grant, organize an event, and the rest of the time you're hanging out. You're in the community, you're in a hammock, you're gossiping with the ladies up the hill drinking coffee, you're watching soap operas with your host mom, you're watching Caso Cerrado, you are cooking, you're just living, and that is work. You always need to be on your game because everyone knows you. You're going to work in a community that's so small. Everyone's been born there, the great-grandmothers, cousins, uncles, they all know each other, and then you show up. And while you might not know a lot about Don Antonio knows how you eat your pupusas. Like, they know everything about you, and so you always need to be accountable. Living with a host family. In El Salvador and a lot of countries where there is security risks, volunteers are required to live with host families. In some countries, it's an option. I would 100% hands down recommend to live with a host family. It is a constant lesson on the culture. You're always in language class. And for me, I'm an only child and I don't have a large family at home, so I wanted part of my Peace Corps experience to be creating a family. So I lived with this wonderful family. That's my host mom Esperanza, my host sister Stephanie, and my little baby host sister Fatima. They were there for me 24/7. They cooked for me, I ate with them, they cleaned for me. They were just such a central part of my life. But it wasn't always perfect. You are moving into someone's home. I had 7 roommates. We had 1 little bathroom. There was tarantula, there were scorpions, no space is your own. As you can see, Fatima would find my care packages and find a way to get any kind of food. She would climb up the cabinets, go through the things, and that's just kind of the trade-off for living with someone. If you're living in someone's house, you really can't tell them how to raise their children. You have to figure it out. But I would recommend any volunteer who's going to a country where they don't speak the language to live with a host family because it's constant language class, constant practice. Here's some more pictures of little Fatima. When I arrived, she was a year old, and when I left, by the time I left, this is her on my last day. She unpacked my bag and tried to get in my suitcase to leave with me. And the relationships I developed with my host family are some of the most special relationships I have in my life. And I know it doesn't sound that appealing. It sounds great to have your own little casita, your own space. But when it comes down to it, I would never do anything different. And this little angel, I love her so much, is so special. And I really got to grow up with these little girls in this house. And that's an experience I would never have gotten to have without Peace Corps. So Peace Corps isn't all about the projects you do and the productive work that you produce. It's about the relationships that you create with your community and your family. And finally, I am a Peace Corps Master's International student, so I did my 1.5 year graduate work in the Urban and Regional Planning Department, 27 months of service, and then I came back to finish my last semester. I would recommend this program to anyone interested in pursuing higher education because, as Autumn and I were talking about earlier, having a plan after Peace Corps allows you to really enjoy your experience. Your last 3 months in site are so difficult. You're wrapping everything up. You want to enjoy your time. You're celebrating. You're saying goodbye. Why add that stress of having to take the GRE, get a job, figure out where you're going, when you can combine it with the volunteer program and come back and go to school and really have the time to process your experience and defend it in a thesis. So, thank you guys so much. This is just an example of my local bus, Peace Corps Transit. And like I said, you're going to be a role model in ways you'll never expect. People are going to look to you, especially your host family or little girls or little boys in the community. This is my host sister who are go and dress up as me and go to school. I just think it's important to, when you're applying, especially if you're applying now and you kind of get to say where you go and what part of the world you're going to be serving in, to look at the culture that you're going to be in. Understand the roles of, try to understand the roles of family, women's rights, men's issues, and go in there with an open mind here as well.
A lot of you guys are here for